Tonight, a father will lose his son forever. At midnight, 17-year-old Kola must spill blood to join Lagos's most feared gang, or have his own spilled instead. As the clock ticks down, a mysterious housemaid appears with a shocking revelation. This isn't just about a lost teenager. It's about an invisible war for the souls of young men across the city. If you are just tuning into this channel for the first time, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also share with your friends and family. It means the world to us. Mr. Segun Adebayo sat on his porch steps. His head was in his hands. The sounds of another argument drifted through the open window behind him. "I'm done with this." His 17-year-old son, Kola, shouted at Segun's wife, "Mercy, you're not even my real mother. Stop acting like you have any right to tell me what to do." "Kola, please," Mercy's voice trembled. "I'm just worried about..." "Worried? About what? That I'm finally making money? That I have friends who actually respect me?" Something crashed inside the house. Probably another picture frame, the third this month. Segun closed his eyes. He was too exhausted to intervene. Again, the arguments had become routine since Kola started hanging out with Kingsley Okafor and his crew. Kingsley, with his flashy cars and designer clothes. Kingsley, whose business opportunities were turning Segun's once obedient son into a stranger. Segun knew what Kingsley really was. Everyone in Alimosho knew, a drug dealer, a recruiter of young boys. But knowing and proving were different things, and knowing and convincing your teenage son were worlds apart. The door slammed behind him as Kola stormed out. His backpack was slung over one shoulder. "Where are you going?" Segun stood up, finding his voice at last. "It's almost 9. Kola didn't even look back. "Out." "You have school tomorrow." "Maybe I'll go. Maybe I won't." Segun stepped forward. A flash of anger cut through his exhaustion. "Kola!" His son turned then. His eyes were cold in a way that made Segun's heart ache. When had this happened? When had his boy, his and Adenike's son, become this hardened young man? "What, Dad?" Kola's voice was quiet now, which was somehow worse than the shouting. "What are you going to do? Hit me? Lock me up? You can barely keep this house together. You couldn't save Mum, and you can't stop me." The words landed like physical blows. Segun stood frozen as his son walked away, disappearing into the darkness of their street. Behind him, the front door opened again. Mercy stepped out, eyes red from crying. "He didn't mean it," she said softly, but they both knew it wasn't true. Kola had meant every word. "I'm losing him, Mercy." Segun's voice broke. "Just like I lost Adenike." Mercy placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, but said nothing. What could she say? They both knew the truth. 5 years after cancer took his first wife, Segun was now watching helplessly as their only son slipped away into a world that would destroy him just as surely. A movement across the street caught Segun's eye. A figure standing in the shadows, watching. He tensed, wondering if it was one of Kingsley's boys, monitoring Kola's home. But as the figure stepped into the pool of light cast by the street lamp, he saw it was a young woman. Small frame, brown skin, hair neatly packed in small braids, simple dress, flat shoes. She stood there for a moment, looking directly at him, then began walking toward their house with purpose in her step. Mercy tightened her grip on Segun's shoulder. "Who is that?" Segun shook his head. "I don't know." The young woman stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. "Good evening, sir," she said. Her voice was gentle but clear. "My name is Kemi. I heard you might need some help around the house." Segun frowned. "Help? We didn't call for any house help." "Mrs. Iabo at the market mentioned you were looking," she replied. Her expression didn't change. Mercy stepped forward. "There must be a mistake. I never spoke to Mrs. Iabo about house help." The young woman's eyes remained steady. "Sometimes help arrives before we know we need it." Something about her gaze made Segun pause. There was a depth there, a knowing that seemed out of place with her simple appearance. "It's late," he said. "Perhaps you should come back tomorrow." "Tomorrow might be too late," Kemi said quietly. Segun felt a chill run through him. "Too late for what?" "For your son." Mercy gasped softly. Segun went stiff. "What do you know about my son?" Kemi's expression remained calm. I know he's walking a dangerous path. I know there are people pulling him away from you. And I know that after tonight, it will be much harder to bring him back. Sagan stepped down until he was face to face with this strange young woman. Who are you? How do you know these things? I'm someone who was sent to help, she said simply. Will you let me? Sagan stared at her for a long moment. There was something in her eyes, something honest, something that didn't seem to match the simple role of a housemaid. Behind him, Mercy whispered, Segun. He made his decision. Come in, he said finally, standing aside. We could use some help around here. What he didn't know was that when Kemi crossed that threshold, everything was about to change. And the mystery that surrounded this quiet maid was about to reveal itself in ways none of them could imagine. By morning, the house felt different. Segun woke to the smell of fresh akara and brewing tea. Sounds he hadn't experienced since Adenike was alive. Mercy had tried in the beginning, but her cooking never quite measured up. Eventually, they'd all settled for quick breakfasts, eaten separately on the way out the door. He found Kemi in the kitchen, moving with practiced efficiency, as if she'd been working there for years rather than hours. Good morning, sir, she said without turning around. Breakfast will be ready soon. You didn't have to do this, Segun said. He was suddenly uncomfortable with the formality. And please, call me Segun. Kemi nodded but didn't respond. There was a quietness about her that made him curious. Not shy, not timid, but contained. Like someone who carried much more inside than she showed. About last night, he began. What you said about my son. Is Kola home? She interrupted, finally turning to face him. The question caught him off guard. I don't know. He came in very late. Check his room, Kemi said. Her voice was gentle but firm. Now. Something in her tone made him move. He walked quickly to Kola's bedroom at the end of the hall and knocked lightly. When no answer came, he opened the door. The bed was empty, not slept in. Segun's heart sank. He returned to the kitchen, where Kemi was now placing food on the table. Mercy had joined her, looking refreshed despite the previous night's tears. He didn't come home, Segun said flatly. Kemi nodded as if she'd expected this. Sit, eat, we need to talk. As they ate, Kemi spoke quietly but clearly. Kola has been recruited by Kingsley Okafor, not just for small errands anymore. Tonight, they're planning to bring him into the inner circle. Segun put down his fork. How could you possibly know this? The initiation requires blood, Kemi continued, ignoring his question. Not just loyalty, not just breaking the law. Blood. Mercy gasped. What are you saying? I'm saying that tonight, Kingsley will ask your son to hurt someone to prove himself, and once that happens, the path back becomes much harder. Segun stood up quickly. I'm calling the police. The police can't help, Kemi said calmly. Not yet. There's no evidence. No crime has been committed, and Kola will only be pushed further away. Then what? Segun demanded. Frustration and fear made his voice sharp. What am I supposed to do? Just wait while my son becomes a criminal? A murderer? Kemi looked up at him. For a moment, her eyes seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. You need to fight for him, not against him. You need to remind him of who he really is. And how do I do that when he won't even talk to me? With this. Kemi reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn notebook. She placed it on the table. Segun recognized it immediately. His throat tightened. Where did you get this? It was under his mattress, hidden but not forgotten. Segun picked up the notebook with shaking hands. The leather cover was cracked with age. The pages were yellowed. Inside, written in his late wife's elegant handwriting, were prayers, hopes, and dreams for their son. Adenike had started it when she first learned she was pregnant. She continued writing in it until the day before she died. I didn't know he kept this, Segun whispered. He reads it when he thinks no one is watching, Kemi said softly, when the pull between two worlds becomes too strong. Mercy wiped a tear from her cheek. How do you know these things? Kemi stood and began clearing the plates. Some things cannot be explained, only accepted. She turned to Segun. Kola will come home this afternoon to change before meeting Kingsley. That is your moment. Segan clutched the notebook to his chest. Hope and doubt warred within him. And if it doesn't work? If he still goes? Kemi's expression remained serene. Then I will do what I was sent to do. The question of who had sent her hung in the air, unanswered. The house fell into a strange, expectant silence after breakfast. Mercy left for her job at the hospital. She kissed Segan on the cheek and whispered, "Have faith." Segan tried to focus on his work. Freelance accounting he did from home since losing his bank position 2 years ago. But his mind kept drifting to his son, and to the mysterious young woman now moving quietly through his house, transforming it with each touch. By noon, the floors gleamed. The windows sparkled. Even the garden, long neglected, had been weeded and tended. It was as if Kemi's presence was washing away years of grief and neglect, revealing the home that once was. At 3:17 p.m., the front gate creaked. Segan looked up from his laptop to see Kemi standing in the doorway of his small office. "He's here," she said simply. Segan stood. His heart was pounding. The notebook lay on his desk where he'd been reading it all day. Finding strength in Adenike's words, he picked it up and moved to the living room just as Kola walked through the front door. His son froze when he saw him, clearly not expecting anyone to be home. Then his eyes shifted to Kemi, standing quietly in the corner. "Who's this?" he asked. Suspicion replaced surprise. "New house help," Segun said. He tried to keep his voice casual. "Kemi." Kola's eyes narrowed. "Since when do we need house help?" "Since your stepmother and I both work, and you're..." Segun hesitated. "Busy with your own life." Something flashed across Kola's face. Guilt, perhaps. But it was quickly replaced by the hard mask he'd worn for months now. "Whatever, I just came to change." He started toward his room. "Kola," Segun called after him, "can we talk for a minute?" "I'm in a hurry." "It's important." Kola turned. Impatience was written across his features. "What?" Segun held out the notebook. "I found this." The change was immediate. Kola's face lost its color. His eyes widened, then narrowed again. They darted between the notebook and his father. "You went through my things?" His voice was low, dangerous. "No," Segun said honestly. "Kemi found it while cleaning." Kola's gaze shot to the quiet maid. She met his eyes without flinching. Something passed between them. A challenge, a recognition that Segun couldn't interpret. "Give it back," Kola demanded, reaching for the notebook. Segun held it just out of reach. "I didn't know you kept this, all these years." "It's none of your business." "She was my wife, Kola, your mother. That makes it my business." "You don't get to use her now," Kola spat. "Not when you've spent 5 years trying to replace her, pretending she never existed." The accusation hit Segan like a physical blow. "Is that what you think? That I've been trying to erase her? Haven't you? With your new wife, your new life, moving on while I'm left with nothing but memories and this." He gestured at the notebook. "I never moved on," Segan said quietly. "I just found a way to keep living. For you. Because that's what she would have wanted." "Don't tell me what she would have wanted," Kola shouted. Emotion finally cracked through his hard exterior. "You don't know. You weren't there when she made me promise." Segan went still. "Promise what?" Kola's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. "To take care of you. To be the man of the house. To make something of myself." He laughed bitterly. "Look how well that turned out." "Kola." Segun stepped toward his son, but Kola backed away. "Don't. Just don't." He held out his hand. "Give me the notebook and let me go." "I can't let you go," Segan said. His own eyes were now swimming with tears. "Not to Kingsley. Not to what he's planning for you tonight." Kola froze. "What are you talking about?" "I know, son. About the initiation. About what they want you to do." Fear replaced anger in Kola's eyes. "You don't know anything." "I know that this," Segan held up the notebook, "is who you really are, not whatever Kingsley is trying to turn you into." For a moment, one precious moment, Segan saw his son again. The real Kola, not the hardened mask he'd been wearing. Vulnerable, scared, desperate to find his way. Then the moment passed. Kola's face closed off again. "Keep it," he said coldly. I don't need it anymore. He turned and walked to his room, slamming the door behind him. Minutes later, he emerged wearing different clothes. He headed straight for the front door without a glance at his father. "Kola, please," Segun called after him. "Whatever Kingsley's promised you, it's not worth your soul." His son paused at the door. His hand was on the knob. For a second, Segun thought he might turn back, but then Kola shook his head. "You don't understand, Dad. It's too late." And he was gone. Segun stood in the silent living room. The notebook was clutched in his hands. Defeat washed over him in waves. He had failed. Failed his son. Failed Adenike. "It's not too late," Kemi's voice came from behind him. He had almost forgotten she was there. He turned to her, anger suddenly rising. "How can you say that? You saw him. He's made his choice." "He hasn't," Kemi said with quiet certainty. "Not yet." "And how would you know?" Segun demanded. "Who are you, really? How do you know about Kingsley? About the initiation? Who sent you here?" Kemi met his gaze steadily. "Someone who once stood where you stand now. Someone who almost lost everything because they couldn't see what was right in front of them." "And what is that supposed to mean?" "It means we need to go," she said, moving toward the door. "Now, before Kola reaches Kingsley's compound." "Go where? To do what?" Kemi paused. Her hand was on the door. "To show your son that some promises are worth keeping, and some are worth breaking." Without waiting for a response, she stepped outside. Despite his doubts, despite his fears, Segun found himself following her. Kingsley Okafor's compound stood out in the neighborhood like a peacock among pigeons. High walls topped with broken glass, a black gate with gold decorations. 2 muscled men standing guard outside. Their faces were emotionless beneath designer sunglasses. Segun parked his old Toyota a block away. Anxiety churned in his stomach. "This is madness," he muttered. "We can't just walk in there." Kemi sat calmly in the passenger seat. She turned to him. "Do you trust me? I don't even know you. And yet you followed me here." Segun couldn't argue with that. There was something about this woman, this strange, quiet maid who had appeared on his doorstep with knowledge she shouldn't possess. That compelled trust, despite all logic. "What's your plan?" he asked finally. "I'm going to talk to Kingsley," she said simply. Segun stared at her. "Talk to him. The man is a criminal. A recruiter of boys like Kola. He doesn't just talk to people who walk up to his gate. He will talk to me." Before Segun could protest further, Kemi opened the car door and stepped out. With no choice but to follow, Segun hurried after her. As they approached the compound, the guards straightened. Their hands moved subtly toward the weapons Segun knew they carried. "Stop," one of them called out. "This property is private." Kemi didn't slow her pace. "I'm here to see Kingsley Okafor." The guards exchanged glances. Nobody sees Mr. Okafor without an appointment. "Tell him Kemi is here, about Kunle Adesanya." Segun shot her a confused look. Who was Kunle Adesanya? But the name clearly meant something to the guards. One of them immediately reached for his phone. He turned away to speak in hushed tones. After a moment, he turned back. His eyes were wide with what looked like fear. "Mr. Okafor will see you." The gate swung open. It revealed a compound that looked more like a small palace than a home. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art pieces that Segun, even with his limited knowledge, recognized as extremely valuable. They were led through a series of rooms. Each was more fancy than the last. Until they reached a sunlit terrace where a man sat alone at a glass table. He was sipping something amber from a crystal glass. Kingsley Okafor was younger than Segun had expected. Perhaps 35, handsome in a sharp, predatory way. He wore a white linen suit that contrasted starkly with his dark skin. Gold glinted at his wrists and neck. He looked up as they approached. His face showed no surprise, only mild interest. "So," he said, his voice was smooth as oil, "you're Kemi." She nodded slightly. "And you're the man trying to destroy Segun Adebayo's son." Kingsley's eyes shifted to Segun, as if noticing him for the first time. "Ah, the father." He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Your boy has potential, ambition. Unlike you." Segun's hands curled into fists at his sides, but Kemi spoke before he could. Release him from tonight's commitment. Kingsley laughed, a sound like glass breaking. Release him. The boy came to me, begged for a chance to prove himself, to be something more than his father's disappointment. The words cut deep, but Segun held his ground. Whatever you've promised him, whatever you've told him, it's based on lies. Is it? Kingsley raised an eyebrow. Look around, Mr. Adebayo. Do I look like I'm living a lie? Your son wants what I have: power, respect, the ability to take what he wants from this world instead of settling for scraps. At what cost? Segun demanded. His freedom, his future, his soul. Kingsley waved a dismissive hand. Poetic but meaningless. We all pay a price for success. And what price did you pay, Kingsley Okafor? Kemi asked quietly. Or should I call you Chinedu Okafor, as you were known before you changed your identity? The smooth confidence on Kingsley's face faltered. Who are you? How do you know that name? I know many things, Kemi said. I know about the boy from the village who watched his father work himself to death for pennies, who swore he would never end up the same way, who first stole, then cheated, then hurt others to climb out of poverty. Kingsley stood up quickly, his chair scraped against the marble. Guards. They won't come, Kemi said calmly. Not yet. What do you want? Kingsley demanded. His composure was cracking. Money? Is that it? I want you to look at this man, Kemi gestured to Segun. Really look at him, and then at yourself. He lost his wife, nearly lost everything. But he didn't turn to hurting others. He didn't start recruiting boys to do his dirty work. And what did his nobility get him? Kingsley sneered. A broken home, a rebellious son, while I have all this. Do you? Kemi stepped closer to him. You sleep with guards at your door. You trust no one. You change your phone weekly for fear of being tracked. Is that truly having everything? Something flickered in Kingsley's eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or a distant memory. For a moment he looked younger, more vulnerable. Then the hardness returned. Enough of this. He reached into his jacket. Segun tensed, expecting a weapon, but instead Kingsley pulled out a phone. You want the boy? Fine, he's nothing special anyway. Plenty more where he came from. He dialed a number, spoke briefly, then hung up. There, your precious son has been released from his commitment. He fixed his gaze on Kemi. Now get out of my house before I change my mind. There's one more thing, Kemi said. The evidence. Kingsley's eyes narrowed. What evidence? The videos you took of the boys during their initiation, the ones you used to control them afterward. Segun felt sick at the implication. Kingsley had been recording these young men, creating blackmail material to ensure their loyalty. You're bluffing, Kingsley said, but his voice lacked conviction. You couldn't possibly know about that. The same way I know about Kunle Adesanya, about the land deal that nearly destroyed him, about your connection to Chief Babatunde, now sitting in a jail cell because he underestimated someone like me. Kingsley's face went pale. You're working with them, the police. I work for justice, Kemi said simply. Now the evidence, all of it. Or the next visitor to your compound won't be as peaceful as us. For a long moment, the only sound was the distant chirping of birds. Then Kingsley walked to a small safe concealed behind a painting. He opened it and removed a hard drive. Take it, he said, tossing it onto the table, and don't come back. As they walked out of the compound, hard drive in hand, Segun felt like he was moving through a dream. None of this made sense. Not Kemi's knowledge of Kingsley's past, not the criminal's sudden surrender, not the mention of people and events Segun had never heard of. Who are you? He asked again as they reached the car. Really? Kemi looked at him with those deep, knowing eyes. Someone who was given a second chance, and now gives the same to others. Before Segun could press further, his phone rang. Mercy's name flashed on the screen. Segun. Her voice was breathless with excitement. Kola's home. He just walked in, looking confused but different, softer somehow. Relief washed over him in a wave so powerful his knees nearly buckled. We're on our way, he managed to say before hanging up. He turned to share the news with Kemi, but she was already walking away, down the street instead of toward the car. Wait, he called after her. Where are you going? She paused, looking back over her shoulder. My work here is done. But how will you get home? At least let me drive you. A small smile touched her lips. I go where I'm needed, Segun Adebayo. And right now, you're needed at home. With your son. I don't understand any of this, he admitted. How you knew about Kingsley, about the initiation, how you convinced him to let Kola go. Some things aren't meant to be understood, she said, only accepted as the blessings they are. And with that, she turned and continued walking. Her small figure grew smaller with each step. Segun watched until she disappeared around a corner, then got into his car, heart full of questions, but also, unexpectedly, hope. When Segun arrived home, he found Kola sitting at the dining table. A mug of tea was cooling in front of him. Mercy stood by the stove. Her face was bright with cautious joy. Father and son looked at each other for a long moment. Then Kola spoke. His voice was small in a way it hadn't been for months. I don't know what happened, Dad. I was heading to Kingsley's, determined to go through with everything. But then... He shook his head as if trying to clear it. Something changed. It was like I could hear Mom's voice, telling me to turn around, to come home. Segun sat down across from his son. He placed the notebook gently on the table between them. Your mother always did have a way of getting through to you. Kola's eyes filled with tears that this time he let fall. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything, for what I said about you not being there when Mum made me promise. The truth is, she made me promise to keep being the good son she raised, to honor her memory by living right. He looked down at his hands. I broke that promise. No, Segun reached across the table, clasping his son's hand. You lost your way for a while, that's all. We all do sometimes. How did you know? Kola asked. About Kingsley, about what was supposed to happen tonight. Segun thought about Kemi, about her impossible knowledge and quiet certainty, about the way doors opened for her and hardened criminals yielded to her words. Let's just say we had help from someone who sees more clearly than most. Kola nodded slowly. The new maid. There was something about her, something familiar. Familiar how? I don't know, just... When she looked at me, it was like she knew me. Like she could see right through all my anger to what was underneath. He paused. Where is she anyway? She had to go, Segun said softly. Her work here was done. Later that night, after Kola had gone to bed, sleeping peacefully for the first time in months, Segun sat on the porch steps with Mercy. They watched the stars emerge in the darkening sky. I still don't understand it, Mercy said. Her head was resting on his shoulder. Any of it. Who she was. How she knew what she knew. I've been thinking about that, Segun said slowly. Do you remember that news story a few months ago about a billionaire real estate developer named Kunle Adesanya? How he narrowly escaped some kind of fraud scheme. Mercy nodded. Vaguely, something about his wife and business partner betraying him. There were rumors that a housemaid had warned him, saved him somehow. Segun looked up at the stars. And then, when we were at Kingsley's compound, Kemi mentioned someone named Ngozi, a woman who was almost tricked into signing away her home. You think they're connected? That this Kemi person moves from crisis to crisis, helping people? I don't know what to think, Segun admitted, except that whatever or whoever she is, I'm grateful she found us. Mercy squeezed his hand. Maybe she's an angel. Segun smiled at the simplicity of the idea. Maybe. Or maybe she's just someone who learned to see the truth when others can't. Someone who uses that gift to help those who need it most. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Then Mercy spoke again. Her voice was thoughtful. You know, they say that those who have suffered deeply develop a kind of sight. That pain, if we let it, can open our eyes to things others miss. You think that's what happened to Kemi? She suffered and it gave her this ability? I don't know, Mercy said, but I do know that tomorrow I'm going to the market to find Mrs. Iabo, to ask if she really did send Kemi to us, and if not, to find out if anyone else has had a similar experience. Segun nodded. The mystery of Kemi would likely remain unsolved. But the gift she had given them, the return of their son from the edge of a darkness that might have swallowed him whole, that was real. That was enough. Inside the house, Kola turned in his sleep. One hand was resting on the worn notebook he had placed on his bedside table. And as he dreamed, a sense of peace washed over him. A feeling of being watched over, protected, not just by his father and stepmother, not just by the memory of his mother, but by something more, something that moved through the world like a quiet breath, touching lives at their breaking points and changing them forever. Across the city, a tired woman sat at a motor park. Her few possessions were packed in a small bag beside her. She wore a simple dress and flat shoes. Her hair was neatly packed in small braids. Her face was calm and serene despite the lateness of the hour. A bus pulled up, its doors hissed open. The driver looked at her curiously. "Where to, miss?" Kemi smiled slightly. "Wherever I'm needed next." The driver nodded as if this was a perfectly reasonable destination. Kemi boarded the bus. She took a seat by the window. As the vehicle pulled away, she gazed out at the city lights. Her reflection in the glass overlaid the world beyond. In that reflection, just for a moment, something shifted. A suggestion of light around her form, a depth in her eyes that spoke of wisdom beyond her years. Then it was gone, and she was simply a young woman on a late-night bus, heading toward her next assignment. For Kemi wasn't just a housemaid. She was a seer of truths, a mender of lives, sent to those who needed her most, just when they thought all hope was lost. And her work would continue, as long as there were broken hearts to heal and lost souls to guide home.
If you enjoyed this story, I'm certain you'll enjoy the next one showing on your screen right now. Please click on the thumbnail to watch the next story. I'd appreciate your support. Like this video, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to my channel. See you in my next story. Bye.